Hi everybody, welcome to Excel Family Youth Society. My name is Giftii and I work with the Youth Effectiveness team. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what you guys are used to. We are going to be discussing and talking about how to talk to your teenagers, some tips and things that you guys can try. So happy new year on behalf of Excel Family Youth Society. We look forward to seeing you guys even more often every second Wednesday right here on our Facebook page. So with the youth that we have dealt with, there's been a lot of information that we have received, and so we want to share some of that insight with you guys. We have had a peer-to-peer based program for the East African community running for the past 5 years, and we have been so successful. And what we want to do is educate you guys based on what we have learned, especially for parents. So the very first thing that we want to discuss is that we actually have done a lot of studies. These studies that have taken place were things that we have asked the youth directly. We have interviewed and worked with multiple groups of youth, and I want to share with some of their insight about their day-to-day struggles that they have. For example, we have some youth that say that they have no friends. Some of them say that they can't truly express themselves in the home. We've also heard that they feel as though they have to keep how unhappy they feel on the inside. It's really hard for them to express themselves. And they also say school is really hard. I try my best, but it never seems good enough. What's the point? So we have a lot of teens and a lot of preteens who are wrestling with identity. A good percentage of them actually deal with identity issues. So most youth are trying to find out who they are. Now there's factors that contribute to who they are, and I want to share these factors with you guys. So if you look at the way that culturally our East African households are created, we are a very collective society, which means that what the individual does is more for the benefit of the community, not necessarily for the individual themselves. Then we go to Canadian culture, and Canadian culture is teaching kids to be independent, to think critically, that they have to figure out what they want to do based on what their desires and their strengths are. And then when we go to the East African household, it's a little bit different. It's not the individual, it is a collective decision. And so today we're going to talk about 5 ways that you can enhance your relationship with your teen. So number 1, the very first thing that I want to recommend parents is for them to ask their child, ask their teenager, how they can enhance their relationship. You see, when you ask your teenager and say, how can we enhance our relationship? What can we do? It is not placing blame on anybody, but what it is that it's giving you both an opportunity to collaborate so that you both have an expectation in the relationship. Now, this creates an opportunity for your child to also give their input without judgment, and they can say, Mom and Dad, this is what I would like to talk about. This is some of the areas where I wish I'd talk to you guys more. And then you guys can kind of talk about what are some of your expectations with each other. That way the groundwork is laid out very clear and you both have expectation of each other. So number 2 is to be understanding. Now, as I mentioned earlier, because our East African households, we are a collective society, and then when we go to Canadian culture, it is an individualistic society. There's a clash that is occurring within the child, and oftentimes is that when they come home, they feel like they are back home, right? Like they think that they're back in East Africa. And so it's very important that we are very conscious of these things so that we create a dialogue with your child. And so because we're living in a cross-cultural just world that is no longer just one culture, but now we look at the difference between the two. For example, as I mentioned earlier, critical thinking is one of the ways that the Canadian individualistic culture teaches them in school. And so students are always encouraged to pursue their own interests and their own dreams, to be self-sufficient, to be independent, to think for themselves, and also to just be able to just expand and just live outside the box. And also students are taught that respect is earned. It is not something that is automatically given. And so when we go to their home expectations, children are taught not to question the authority of elders or people in the community. Children are encouraged to pursue paths and dream that will make the family and community proud. Children are also encouraged to pursue and to adhere all instructions and decisions made by adults. This does not give room for critical thinking. This does not give room for dialogue. And also children are taught that adults must be respected. So you see there's two different worlds that children are dealing with. And so it's really important. So my suggestion is that you guys take the best of both worlds and you basically find a way to find an even ground where you can take values from your culture, which is such a beautiful thing, and you take values from the Canadian culture, which allows your child to thrive in the Canadian culture, so they don't have to choose between the two. So that's number two. Number three is to encourage more and to nag less. Yes, parents, it is very important that you have a healthy dialogue with your child. A lot of time, each child has their own natural characteristics and traits, and so it's really important that you communicate at the level that they understand, communicate at what they know how to understand you. For example, if a child is being nagged to do something constantly, sometimes what happens is that they emotionally shut down and then you can't even get a reaction from them. So it's really important that you actually, instead of nagging, I recommend parents try the positive reinforcement. So for example, if you see your child doing something that they have not been asked to do and they're doing above and beyond and they're doing a very great job, to reward positive behavior. We have seen so many studies that positive behavior really does bring a change, and so it's important that you acknowledge when they're doing good, more good, and when they do bad, you find ways to discuss and calmly just communicate. And so encourage your children more. Trust me, this is a method that really works. When we did our studies all across Canada with our East African youth, we have found many of them simply just want more of an emotional connection with their parents. They want more of a communication. They want more understanding. And so I think it's possible to do that. Number four is to set aside time. Quality time is really the best gift that you can give your child, and it's free. And that's literally what a lot of the kids are telling us, is that they want quality time with their parents. And so, for example, when you are intentional about the quality time that you carve out for your child, what happens is that your child begins to understand that they have a value, that they are special. It's not simply putting a roof over their head and putting food on their plate, but there's an emotional wellness, that you take care of their mental health, because now you get an opportunity to open up and find out what's going on in their world. So when you are intentional with quality time, what does it look like? It would look like you have probably a lot of involvement with community, with religious groups, with social groups. You probably have so many activities. And so perhaps sitting down with your child, especially a teenager, and saying, when can we actually sit down and hang out? Hang out can look like anything. You guys can be playing board games. You guys can go out for the day together. You guys can do something that your child has a hobby in, and then you just partake in that. Or you guys do something that you both come together and you create a plan where you guys spend quality time together, not with phones, not with social media, but it's together. And so what you're doing is that it becomes so much easier for your child to spend time with you, so they will open up to you more as well. And so this actually really does help as well. And also, I mentioned that you should take time to do the things that they have interest in. Taking interest in their hobby is going to be a huge indicator that you are wanting to get to know them. Your child is evolving and changing a lot during the teenage to young adult years, but these are the critical years that when they learn to come to you for the smallest things, the door has already been opened because you have spent that quality time. We're seeing a lot of parents feeling a disconnect between their teenagers and themselves, and they're saying, what happened to my child? They have changed so much since they were 9 or 10 years old. And so it's important that you're making a conscious effort, and I think putting it on the calendar, if you have a calendar in the house, somewhere on the fridge, where you let them know today's day is for this child with mom, today's date is this child with dad. And what this does is quality time. Your child will thrive because now they can understand that they are really important in the household, not only to themselves, but they begin to understand themselves because they get to build that relationship with you. Number 5 is to talk more and to be honest. I know talking necessarily isn't the easiest way, but I think it's really possible. Now, I want you guys to try asking your children open-ended questions. An open-ended question is something that is, for example, when they answer with just a yes or a no, or good, it's not an open-ended question. So an open-ended question can look like, I know that today on your agenda you had a physics class with this teacher. How was it? Did you enjoy it? Even asking questions about their friends, asking questions about their hobbies, asking questions about what's currently happening in the school. It's the little things that really go a long way. So I really encourage you guys to talk more. I also encourage parents to create a healthy environment in the house. When you create a healthy environment in the home, your child feels a lot comfortable and safe to even just have conversations. Oftentimes, if there's a dispute, a disagreement between parents, children usually have a really good sense of what's happening, and so when you keep it from them, it does not teach them positive conflict resolution. But it's important to say, you know what, we just had a disagreement, but this is how we deal with our disagreements, and we will be just fine, you know, tomorrow or whatever the case may be. So it's important that you create that healthy environment in the house. And so I generally just want to encourage parents that you actually have really the biggest impact on your children, that they're not a lost cause, that they will not forever stay the same. They will not always be teenagers, but there's always an opportunity for you to really to just pass something on to the next generation. And also I want to encourage parents as well to just how you behave, how you do, how you deal with people, how you respond to challenges in life, just how you respond to things, how you communicate with your partner. All these things your children are watching, and so you are the best teacher that they have. And so if anything, you are in the best position for a course of correction for your children, because this will allow them to really have a great environment. And so these are all things I really want to challenge parents to try it out this year. Let us know with your comments below. We definitely want to hear some feedback. We are not necessarily experts, but these are just experiences that we've had. We do a lot of conflict resolution, and we do a lot of marital counseling. We have so many avenues of how we assist families. And so if you are requesting or requiring any information, if you need help, please go to www.excelfamily.ca and you can submit yourself a service request there. And also if you have any questions, submit it to info@excelfamily.ca. And remember, parents, you guys have the best impact on your children, so use it wisely and be encouraged that try these methods and let us know if they work. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.